Coming up on Arirang News. The very first Youth Winter Olympics to be held in Asia kick off in Gangwon Province, South Korea, with a grand opening ceremony. Tonight, we go to the city of Gangneung, where the stage is set for sporting action. North Korea says it has successfully conducted a test for an underwater weapon system in response to this week's combined naval exercises between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. It's too early to let our guards down, even though COVID-19 infections have subsided, as South Korea sees the number of patients with respiratory infections surge by 90-fold. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. South Korea's Gangwon Province is where we begin our coverage tonight. The opening ceremony of Asia's first Winter Youth Olympics, Gangwon 2024, is currently underway. Let's connect with our culture correspondent, Song Yujin, joining us live from the city of Gangneung. So Yujin, how are things over there?
Well, hello, Jiyoung. So the opening ceremony of the 2024 Gangwon Winter Youth Olympic Games started about an hour ago at the Gangneung Oval at 8 p.m. Korea time. So we're approaching the final half an hour of the 90-minute ceremony. Most of the major events are expected to be finished, including the Parade of the Nations as well as the opening declaration. The highlight, the lighting of the cauldron, was supposed to take place right now, but I think it was a bit delayed. But the original scenario was Yoon Seong-bin, the gold medalist of the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympic Games, being the first torchbearer, and the torch being carried to the last torchbearer, who is Lee Jung-min, a freestyle ski athlete of Korea, who will be also taking part in the Gangwon 2024 Games. So as soon as Lee ignites the actual cauldron inside the oval, this digital cauldron behind me is supposed to light up simultaneously. So throughout the games, the embers of the actual cauldron will be housed inside a lantern at the athletes' village, while this digital cauldron will be burning for 14 days in front of the Gangneung Hockey Center. Now, this opening ceremony has also been simultaneously broadcasted live at the Pyeongchang Dome in Pyeongchang County. And before the ceremony began, I listened to how much people here are excited about Gangwon 2024.
The opening ceremony seems to be a bit smaller than 2018, but I'm excited to see the athletes, the Olympic stars of the future.
My sister is going to be an athlete participating, so we're very excited. Our whole family's here to support her, and lots of friends and family back home will be watching online. Go, Maya! You're going to do great. Win or lose, we're going to have a lot of fun, and don't forget to listen for us cheering.
So as you can see, Jiyoung, everyone here are ready to fully enjoy the games.
Yes, absolutely, even at this late hour. But Yujin, for those who are not familiar with the Youth Olympics, tell us a bit more about Gangwon 2024.
Sure. So the Youth Olympic Games is specifically for athletes between ages 15 and 18 years old. This time, for the fourth edition of the Winter Youth Olympic Games, 1,803 athletes from 79 national Olympic committees will be taking part. Now, that is a record for the Winter Youth Olympic Games. And so the Gangwon Games is the biggest yet, and these athletes will take part in 15 disciplines across 7 sports, and most of these races will take place at the venues of the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. And I also want to talk about how the Youth Olympics offers us a chance to meet the sports stars, next generation of sports stars. And most athletes I met here said that their goal is to compete in the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. And take a listen to what the head of the International Olympic Committee had to say about this.
The expectations are that the athletes are using these Winter Youth Olympic Games as a stepping stone then for the Olympic Games. What we have seen very successfully in the last Winter Youth Olympic Games and Olympic Games.
And we've actually witnessed a youth Olympic star successfully transitioning to Olympic medalists. For example, snowboarders Chloe Kim, Eileen Gu. So I can say that the stage is set for these promising talents.
Well, I see. Only time will tell who the breakout stars of Gangwon 2024 will be. Speaking of athletes, what can we expect from Team Korea?
Right, so South Korea is sending 102 athletes. This is the most among all National Olympic committees, and we're expecting strong performances, especially in short track speed skating, figure skating, half-pipe snowboarding, and bobsleigh. So for short track speed skating, South Korea has won the most gold medals in all the past 3 Winter Youth Olympic Games. As for figure skating, we're betting on Shin Ji-ah and Kim Hyung-kyum to win medals at their individual women's individual and men's individual games, which will be the first time in Korea's Olympic history. And as for half-pipe snowboarding, keep an eye on Lee Chae-won and Choi Ga-won, who are considered as strong contenders for the gold medal. Last but not least, in bobsleigh, So Jae-hwan is on a mission to make history as the first Asian bobsledder to win a Youth Olympic medal.
Plenty for everyone to get excited about then. Now I hear that some events are exclusive to the Youth Olympics. What are some of them, Yujin?
Right, and that's because the Youth Winter Olympic Games, the Youth Olympics, are not just about competing. It's not about winning a medal. It's also about educating the athletes regarding safe sports, mental health, and injury prevention. That's why the IOC is going to provide workshops as well as group training sessions to all the participating athletes. And there's something for us, the visitors and the spectators, too. So there's something called the Let's Play Winter Festival, which offers visitors a chance to experience various winter sports. For example, mini ice curling, mini biathlon, and also a chance to attend training sessions from Olympians. So I want to say, if you have the time, come down to Gangwon province until the games run until February 1st. All games and events are free of charge. That's all I have for now. Back to you, Jiyoung.
Sounds very exciting. That was our Song Yujin live from Gangneung. Thank you. Staying in Gangneung, President Yoon Suk-yeol is there as well as he declared the Winter Youth Olympics officially open. Attending the opening ceremony at the Gangneung Speed Skating Oval on Friday evening, Yoon showed his support for more than 1,800 young people taking part from around 80 countries. He hopes that the Games can become a venue for young people from all different walks of life to compete, interact, and unite as one. Prior to the event, the president greeted International Olympic Committee Chief Thomas Bach and other members of the sporting body's delegation, requesting their support to help the young participants challenge themselves and grow. Earlier in the day, you met with police, firemen, sanitation workers, and other public workers to convey his appreciation and encouragement for their work to ensure maximum safety and security throughout the Games. Shifting gears, North Korea says it has conducted another test of its underwater nuclear weapons system as it continues to blame the U.S. and its allies. The South Korean military denounced these claims, warning it'll respond overwhelmingly in the event of a direct threat. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Bae Eun-ji, reports.
North Korea claims that it has tested an underwater weapons system in protest against this week's combined naval drills between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, saying they're seriously threatening the security of the North. That's according to a statement from the North's Defense Ministry on Friday, which said it conducted an important test of its Hail 523 system in its eastern waters. But it did not unveil specific details, such as when it was conducted or the test results. In response, the South Korean military urged the North to immediately stop such actions, as they violate UN Security Council resolutions and threaten global peace. It also warned that it'll respond overwhelmingly if Pyongyang stages a direct provocation against Seoul, adding that it's maintaining strong combined readiness with the U.S. Hail, which means tsunami, is the North's underwater nuclear drone system that's designed to generate what it calls a radioactive tsunami to carry out strikes on enemy vessels and ports. The North claims to have tested the system twice last year, the Hail 1 in March and then the Hail 2 in April. To better respond to growing threats from the North, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan jointly conducted naval exercises this week, involving the U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Carl Vinson, for 3 days starting Monday in waters south of Jeju Island. This took place a day after North Korea test-fired what it claimed was a solid-fuel intermediate-range ballistic missile carrying a hypersonic warhead. The South Korean military said the drills were aimed at bolstering the three countries' response capabilities against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Tensions on the Korean peninsula have been rising in recent weeks, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un saying he has no intention of avoiding war, threatening to annihilate the South if it attempts to use force against the regime. 배은지, Arirang News.
Having met Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow this week, North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee is now back home. Newly spotted this time was the North Korean contingent carrying a document insinuating space cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil explains.
North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported that a delegation led by Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee had returned to Pyongyang on Friday after an official visit to Russia. Choi arrived in Moscow on January 14th and met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov before leaving on Thursday. During Choi's meeting with President Putin on Tuesday, her aide was seen holding a document that said observation list in space technology fields in Korean. Pundits say the document hints at a possible discussion taking place on technology cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow on spy satellite or missiles. Choi met with Russian Deputy Prime Minister Novak on Wednesday, and KCNA reported the two discussed wide-ranging cooperation in trade and their economies, among others. While meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, it's likely the two discussed details of President Putin's possible visit to Pyongyang.
There were official announcements from both countries regarding Putin's visit, so we think it's highly likely this will happen. We will keep a close eye on further developments, including the timing of Putin's visit to North Korea.
The South Korean Unification Ministry added that the international community was closely monitoring North Korea-Russia relations, and the cooperation between the two must abide by UN Security Council resolutions and should be done in a way that promotes peace and stability on the Korean peninsula. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And this just in, the Kremlin says that the date of Putin's visit to North Korea is undecided, but they're working on a schedule. And in New York, members of the UN Security Council met behind closed doors on Thursday to address recent security concerns triggered by North Korea. Also present was South Korea as it began its term as a non-permanent member. Our Choi Soo-hyung tells us more about what was discussed.
The United Nations Security Council met in New York on Thursday local time to discuss North Korean threats in the new year. This comes as South Korea, a non-permanent member of the Council, has requested international cooperation against the North security threats. Other countries such as the US and Japan also requested the meeting, which focused on North Korea and non-proliferation. In the meeting, the members discussed the regime's recent threats to Seoul and the international community, as well as the North Korea's launch on Sunday of an intermediate-range ballistic missile. South Korea emphasized that the North nuclear policy has changed in the last 2 or 3 years, so the Security Council should react not only by focusing on ballistic missiles launched by North Korea, but rather all types of security threats that harm international peace and safety. After the meeting, South Korea's UN ambassador Hwang Jung-guk said in-depth discussions took place. South Korea and the US urged the Security Council to break its silence, mentioning that Kim Jong-un, the leader of the regime, had declared a hostile relationship between Seoul and Pyongyang. However, experts say it may be challenging to reach an agreement on North Korean matters due to the current Security Council divisions. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Turning to the conflicts in the Middle East, Iran-backed Houthis have launched 2 missiles at a U.S.-owned tanker in the Gulf of Aden. President Biden says their counteroffensive against the Houthis will continue. Our Chung Eun-ju has the latest.
The U.S. launched new strikes against Iranian-backed Houthi rebel military sites in Yemen on Thursday as growing tensions in the region's sea lanes disrupted global trade and raised fears of supply bottlenecks that could reignite inflation. The U.S. Central Command said in a statement posted to X, formerly known as Twitter, that the latest strikes targeted 2 Houthi anti-ship missiles that were aimed into the southern Red Sea and prepared to launch and deemed an imminent threat to shipping and U.S. Navy vessels in the region. The Pentagon said they were conducted by Navy FA-18 fighter aircraft. President Joe Biden acknowledged that the American and British bombardment had yet to stop the militants' attacks on vessels in the Red Sea that have disrupted global shipping. He said, however, that the U.S. military response would continue during an exchange with reporters before departing the White House.
Well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
Hours after, a Houthi official said in a pre-recorded statement that its forces had carried out another missile attack against the Marshall Islands-flagged U.S.-owned cargo ship Chem Ranger. The official said the attack took place in the Gulf of Aden, waters just south of Yemen. The U.S. Central Command said in a statement late Thursday that the ship was not affected by the attack. Attacks by the Iran-allied Houthi militia on ships in and around the Red Sea since November have slowed trade between Asia and Europe and alarmed major powers in an escalation of the war between Israel and Palestinian Hamas militants in Gaza. The Houthis say they are acting in solidarity with Palestinians and have threatened to target U.S. ships in response to American and British strikes on the group's positions. 정은주, Arirang News.
Humanitarian crisis deepens in Gaza amid the Israel-Hamas war now lasting over 100 days. Most of the people in the region have been displaced from their homes and they're struggling to get basic necessities. Our Yoon has their story.
More than 100 days into the Israel-Hamas war, people in Gaza are fighting another war of their own.
Today, the war is psychological, a war of fear, a war on food, war on clean water. There's no water and high prices, war of traders and war of high prices.
According to the Gaza Health Ministry, most of the region's 2.3 million people have been displaced from their homes. Those who have been displaced in the southern part of the Gaza Strip spend hours of their day waiting in lines for items essential for the survival of their families.
Our life became all about queues. My children, husband, and I all wake up really early and we split. One goes to get water, one to get bread, one goes to fetch wood. This became our life.
Approximately 80% of the total population in the Gaza Strip is now seeking refuge in the southern cities of Rafah and Khan Yunis, making the area even more crowded than before. The Palestine Red Crescent Society said almost 200 humanitarian aid trucks arrived in Gaza through the Karem Salem crossing and the Rafah crossing, bringing in food, water, and medicine, alongside a few more commercial vehicles. However, the aid coming in is not enough for the people in Rafah, and the prices of necessities brought in by traders' commerce trucks are also spiking.
A can of meat, which used to cost 3 shekels, now costs 15 shekels. Why? Because there is none. Life is expensive.
Al Jazeera reported that the Gaza Strip experienced a nearly complete telecommunications blackout for the 7th consecutive day on Friday. It added that conditions in Khan Yunis' Nasser hospital were unbearable, according to a doctor working there, as it was dealing with intense bombardments that have caused thousands to flee. Since Hamas's October 7 attack on Israel that led to over 1,000 deaths, the death toll in Gaza from the Israel-Hamas war now stands at over 24,000. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the local front, it's too early to get our guards down, even though COVID-19 infections have subsided, as South Korea sees the number of patients with respiratory diseases surge by 90-fold. Health authorities are putting proactive emergency measures in place earlier than originally planned. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
The relief that people felt after being able to take their masks off following the decline in COVID-19 infections will seemingly be short-lived as other viruses have begun to spread nationwide. Data released by the National Health Insurance Service on Friday showed that the number of influenza patients saw a whopping 91.2-fold rise in 2022 compared to the previous year. Cases of influenza have been steadily decreasing since 2018, but saw a sharp rise in 2022. Teenagers were the most commonly affected, making up nearly 40% of patients, as group activities in schools and academies more easily expose them to viruses, leading to a more rapid spread of infectious diseases. This upward trend is continuing as patients with acute respiratory infections have also risen to 461 in the second week of January this year from 368 in the 51st week of last year. But it's not just respiratory illnesses that are plaguing the nation. During the second week of January, 360 people were infected with norovirus, a highly contagious stomach bug that causes vomiting and diarrhea, according to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency. That's the highest weekly infection count in 5 years. Even more concerning is that children and infants between the ages of 0 and 6 made up nearly half of the individuals infected. And considering how norovirus infections are typically most prevalent between the third week of January and the fourth week of February, the patient count is unlikely to go down anytime soon. To combat this upward trend of both influenza and norovirus cases, the health authorities have decided to take preemptive measures. The KDC announced that it will implement emergency quarantine measures starting Friday instead of during the Lunar New Year holiday from February 9th to the 12th as originally scheduled. The agency and health institutions nationwide will ensure assistance lines and reporting service systems are ready before the holiday alongside 24-hour emergency helplines. Local healthcare institutions, pharmacies, childcare facilities, and kindergartens will also receive guidelines on how to prevent and report the spread of viruses. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Known as the biggest cold in winter, tomorrow is called Daehan in the lunar calendar. Even without freezing temperatures, there will be snow or rain throughout the country this weekend. Rain or snow will begin again on the east coast area of Gyeongsangbuk-do province from tonight. As for the amount, with a heavy snow warning having been issued, up to 40 centimeters is forecast in the mountainous areas and up to 15 on the east coast of Gangwon-do province. Jeju Island will receive up to 100 millimeters of heavy rain. Snow and rain on the east coast and Jeju Island will continue until the day after tomorrow. Most areas will see above freezing temperatures tomorrow morning. However, with gusty wind, the wind chill will be lowered by 2 to 4 degrees. Daytime temperatures will be similar to or slightly lower than today's. Seoul 7, Busan 10 degrees Celsius. Since the Winter Youth Olympic Games will be held in Gangwon-do province for 14 days from today, let's take a look at the weather there. Morning temperatures will not plunge to below freezing. Also, there's no need to worry about the cold during the daytime, but rain and snow are in the forecast throughout the day. Please be careful along the roads. A cold snap of around minus 10 degrees Celsius will come around next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 10 p.m. with the AI headline news. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.